Well folks, Christmas this year definitely did not disappoint because today we have an unboxing I've been waiting for a couple of months now, and to be honest I was very much debating whether this was a pickup I needed. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, we have finally pulled the trigger on the brand new M1 Max MacBook Pro, and I couldn't be more excited to unbox this with you guys. As you guys know, I am a full-time photographer and videographer, meaning that a laptop is basically the central hub of my entire workstation. And although at first I was a little bit skeptical, which is why I waited so long to pull the trigger, my workflow eventually got to a point where my previous laptop just couldn't handle the footage I was working with, so I had to make that upgrade. And without further ado, let's get this unboxing started. Alright, so the package actually arrived yesterday, and obviously I like to do my unboxings on camera for you guys, but here we go. Nice little box you get. Now, like I said, this is just going to be an unboxing and first impressions. I'm just going to run it through a couple of basic stress tests. However, I will go into a little bit more detail about the spec'd out model that I picked up, as well as share with you guys a couple of my thoughts if you are on the fence about this purchase. But let's just go ahead and get this open. Obviously, we got that slow reveal with any Apple product. All right, we will save the laptop for a second. Obviously, we got designed by Apple in California. Manuals as usual. We do have a new charging brick. Actually, I'm pretty sure this is a little bit faster charging brick than the previous generation. However, the big update that came with these new MacBook Pros is the return of Magsafe technology. Obviously, Magsafe was a widely popular feature in the original MacBook Pros, and they brought it back, which is actually a pretty handy feature to ensure that if anyone trips over your cable, they're not going to yank the entire laptop, and the Magsafe charger will just automatically unlock. Other than that, that's literally all that comes in the box. Okay. All right, now time for the Big Daddy. Yo, this thing is actually pretty hefty. It's definitely got a lot more weight than my previous laptop. However, I do think the form factor is a little bit more portable, a little bit more convenient to carry. I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw the keynote event, I was actually pretty pissed that they went back to this more bulky, round design, coming from the very slim, portable design we were used to on the previous generation. But like I said, a little bit more on that later. Little satisfying sound. I've heard a lot of great things about the keyboard, which actually does, it feels like any other keyboard. I'm not too crazy about it. All right, real quick though, before we dive any further into the setup of the laptops, I do want to compare it to my current laptop, which is the 15-inch MacBook Pro. This actually has the touch bar versions, and this has been my main workhorse for the past 4 years, and the fact that I'm finally switching over to the new M1 Max is hopefully going to be a great upgrade. Right off the bat, we can go ahead and look at the size comparison. Given the fact that this is a 14-inch and a 15-inch, it actually is a pretty noticeable difference, and the reason I actually went for the 14-inch model is that I think it's the perfect in-between size. It's not too small and it's not too big, and although I was very much leaning towards the 16-inch for that bigger screen real estate, especially while I'm doing video editing, I do have a couple of monitors which I usually plug my laptop into, so that bigger screen real estate wasn't as much of a need for me, as much as a smaller portability that you get with a form factor like this. Now, if you can see, it's actually about maybe like a centimeter or two thicker than the previous generation. I'm not the craziest fan of it. I really enjoyed this model just because it was so slim. However, the reason being is that they obviously brought back a lot of the ports that we missed, such as the SD card slot and the HDMI reader. And for me personally, I'm not gonna lie, there have been several times where I've been frustrated because I didn't have an SD card reader on hand, and the fact that they finally brought it back from the MacBook Pro is actually probably one of the best features about this. Color-wise, I obviously had to go with space gray. For me personally, the silver is just a little bit too much reminiscent of those old MacBook Pros, and of course, obviously, it's gonna just match all of my space gray devices. Alright, now as far as the specs on this model, this is the M1 Max chip, which is a little bit higher than the M1 Pro chip. I did upgrade it to the 32 gigabytes of CPU as well as 32 gigabytes of RAM. I left my storage at 1 terabyte, but the reason I went for this spec model is that obviously as a video editor, having that 32 gigabytes of RAM is actually very helpful. For example, anytime I'm working on a project, I usually have Premiere, Photoshop, Lightroom, and even After Effects open. So having that much RAM allows all these apps to run smoothly, even if they're all open at the same time. Now, I know a big debate that I was personally having was whether or not I wanted to get the M1 Pro or the M1 Max chip, and based on a lot of video reviews I was watching, a lot of people said that you could basically get by on the base model with the M1 Pro and do all the video editing that you needed. I'm sure that is the case for a majority of users. However, for me as a semi-professional video editor and someone who's working with 6K files, I definitely wanted a device that was going to be future-proof for the next 4 to 5 years at least, and it really only made the most sense for me to upgrade to the M1 Max chip. Alright, so I just went through and set up the laptop. To be honest, it's always a super seamless experience with any sort of Apple device. As long as you sign in with your iCloud, you basically basically have access to all of your accounts, so it's very seamless. And anytime I get a new device, the only two software I really download right off the bat is going to be the Adobe Creative Cloud as well as Spotify. So real quick, let's do a speaker test because I'm very interested to see how these sounds.
You good, T-Minus?
Better not never hesitate. Don't come around think you're getting saved. Trying to show the dogs brighter days.
Alright, I'm not gonna lie, I can definitely hear a substantial difference from my previous laptop. The bass is much heavier, and even though it's a smaller form factor, I think it carries throughout the entire device.
The torch trying to light the way, biting everybody, which is ironic, cause you're next.
I'm not gonna lie, it sounds a little bit muddled on the highs and the mids, but for everyday casual listening, they are a pretty impressive pair of speakers. I did already talk about the keyboard, however, as you guys can see, they actually got rid of the touch bar and now we have tactile buttons. For me personally, I had no problem with the touch bar. I didn't get as much use out of it, but I did think it was a pretty neat feature to just be able to slide across it. I just wish there was more software updates to make it more usable and practical in our workflows, but a lot of people just hated it completely. So now we just have more tactile buttons. To me personally, I honestly would have just kept the touch bar. All right, so like I said, we're gonna run a couple of stress tests. So right now I'm gonna open up the same exact project file on the M1 Max, as well as on my 15-inch Intel MacBook Pro. And for the past couple of months, my laptop has literally been taking like 30 minutes just to export a single video. So I'm gonna be very intrigued to see how well this M1 Max is gonna perform, but let's go ahead and drag a project file over. All right, so right now the project file I have open is my apartment tour. This is a fairly complex edit with all of it being shot in 4K. Right now I'm basically just gonna go through the timeline and see how well it does on just scrubbing footage. So let's take a look at this. Yo, I'm not gonna lie, I am like pretty damn impressed right now. All right, so I'm gonna scroll through the same exact timeline on my Intel one, and you guys can definitely see a difference here. So literally as I'm dragging the playhead, I'm not able to see my frames, which is a huge frustration. And literally half the time I'll just be waiting around for my computer to stop lagging. However, with the M1 Max, I'm literally just like flying through the timeline. I'm seeing no lag. I am on full quality, which is pretty damn impressive. It's all recorded in 4K. And man, this is like flying through. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and export both of these files. I'll just go ahead and render them both as 4K timelines using maximum render quality, and then we'll time exactly how long it takes for both of these. So they both have the exact same settings, and let's get the timer rolling right now. All right, the audio files has already been done on the M1 Max. All right, I'm a little bit confused because right now the Intel one is going at 26 minutes and the Max is going at 28 minutes. Something's adding up here. All right, so the M1 Max has finished at a time of 6 minutes and 21 seconds. Right now, the Intel is saying 42 minutes left and it's only at 13%. I'm not gonna lie, when they were rendering, the fans on both of these laptops were kicking in, but given the fact that I was able to export a 4K 10-minute timeline in about 6 minutes is actually fairly impressive. I thought it would crush it a little bit faster, but I'm honestly just gonna go ahead and cancel the export on this one. All right, next up, I'm gonna open a project file, which was mainly shot on the Red Komodo, which does do 6K, and we're just gonna see how well this plays back. All right, so right now we are at full quality, and literally I'm able to scrub through this, no problem. This was actually only shot in 4K, but I'm literally seeing no lag whatsoever. So this is actually very, very impressive. We're gonna go ahead and duplicate a couple of layers to see how well these play back at the same exact time. And with basically 3 layers stacked on top of each other, I am getting no problem whatsoever. All right, folks, well, that's gonna wrap it up for this unboxing and first impressions. As you guys can tell, I am actually very, very impressed with the quality of the M1 Max chip. I think it's gonna be a much needed upgrade, especially to my workflow. And with the type of files I've been working with lately, this new laptop is just gonna be a great powerhouse. If you guys enjoyed this unboxing, don't forget to leave a like down below. Let me know what other types of videos you guys want to see about this new laptop. I'm really going to put this one through its paces over the next couple of months, and I'm very excited to see what kind of projects I'm going to be able to cook up with this. If you're new around here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and as always, folks, don't stress, finesse, y'all.